Welcome to 5 Star Weekly. An MLS Cup winning legend joins us on the penultimate week before the 2025 season officially starts. We getting all that more coming up. Before we get into it, become part of the notification squad by hitting the bell next to the subscribe button on YouTube. Welcome to the show, 5 Star fam. I'm AJ, and this is Michael. And Atlanta United played a couple of preseason matches while we were away from this podcast. But before we get into that and the news and our special guests, yes, let's give some shouts out to our loyal Patreon fam. Gavin, Jordan, Niall, Andrew, Chris, Nick, and Jeff. Thank you guys so much. But yes, so LA United played New England Revolution to a 2-0 victory over the weekend. You saw goals by Jamal Tiare. You got goals also by it's not here. Mateus Click as well. There we go. And yeah, it was a rocket as well. Definitely good to see him on the score sheet. But yeah, there was a second game against FC Cincy on Wednesday, and it was a 2-2 draw. Saba and Miggy scored, both wingers, so definitely very good to see there. Getting them off on the score sheet as well. So definitely, yeah, as far as the preseason score lines, it hasn't been that bad except for the Chattanooga one, but yeah, more or less, it's all just still fitness. And yeah, as far as Gregerson being able to return, other players as well, kind of returning from injury. Amador is also, doing some individual training, so it's good. It's nothing seems to be too serious as far as any of the either the knocks or the little bits of strains. Players are coming back, so I think that's the gist of our preseason so far. Any thoughts on it?
I just gotta say, it feels nice having our fourth DP scoring for us, being a team that also has, they're like, what? Wait, hold on. They have another guy who pretty much is a DP who is another scoring threat. Yeah, we got one of those now. Feel like Miami, feel like LA a little bit. So that's awesome to see, goals coming from like an 8 or a 6 position, which traditionally we don't see a lot of.
Definitely not. And so, yeah, it's, definitely, I mean, you also have this. You have Saba, who technically, was one as well. You have Sleesh. You have Gregerson. We've got a few kind of DP lights on our squad, and, that's kind of part of it. That's kind of the move. But, yeah, so let's get into the news. LA United in the Leagues Cup, they will be playing all Liga MX teams, at least for the first round. So, yeah, one of them being Atlas with Gonzalo Pineda, who's currently their head coach, which, who knows if he still will be the head coach when we play them. I believe it will be in July, but we also will be playing Pumas. We also will be playing Necaxa.
Because Atlas is struggling right now. They're not doing very good. So that's what AJ's alluding to with him potentially not being there.
Right. And also, they're not the most stable with their head coaches either. So, yeah, as of right now, though, he is their head coach. And so there's a possibility that we will face them. And yeah, essentially 38 teams, 18 from MLS, 18 from Liga MX, and the top 4 clubs from each league will advance in a single elimination knockout round. Quarterfinals are scheduled to be played August. Semifinals are scheduled to be playing late August, and then the final will be played August 31st. So, of course, LA United didn't advance out of the last 2 Leagues Cups. But, we hopefully will be playing much better than we have in that competition. So, it gets a little bit more complicated, but we will save that for when we actually, play the Leagues Cup games. So, but yes, as far as the next bit of news, Miguel Almiron, he has his visa, which is great. Emmanuel Lat, he should have his by February 22nd, according to Doug Roberson. but it doesn't mean he will play. It just means that he's eligible. So, obviously that's when the season starts. So very unlikely he will be ready for the actual start of the season. But what we do know is that Latte Lat will wear number 19. Very storied number 19 for LA United. Being cheeky there, because obviously, it hasn't been the best. We've had Brandon Vasquez, who, did score in U.S. Open Cup a good bit for us. You have Daniel Rios as well, I believe, wearing that number. Who else was wearing that number? Not ones to write home about usually. But I think Latte Lat will make it his own. And, obviously the number 9 kit number already belonging to Saba, it was always going to be a little bit of like, you take it off of me, because, you're not going to change your number for someone new that comes in. That's just, unlikely unless it was Messi and unless it was Ronaldo or something. But yeah. So anyway,
I'm glad that there isn't any non-pleasantries going on because of that. You know what I mean? Like, there's no jockeying for that position. Like, here's my, this was my number. I always want this number. I'm the big, signing here. Get off my number kind of thing. I'm glad that there's nothing like that happening.
Yeah. It seems like there's some hubris, just like Josef Martinez when number 17. It was the fans' number, and yet he was able to be humble and take number 7, and he really made it his own, that's for sure. But next bit of news, Jamal Tiare, he said he's excited to be working with Miggy because of how great of a player he is and how much space he opens up for strikers, in which case, Tiare is probably going to be that player up top for LA United on the first match. So, he has been in a good scoring run in preseason, so if they can all work together, we can score some goals for the first game, then yes, fantastic. We would love it. But, yes, so last bit of news, not really news, but just a very, very well-timed tweet by, you're looking at him if you're watching the podcast, Mike here, who he said, last time Eagles won the Super Bowl in 2018, last time LA United won MLS Cup in 2018, just saying. So, I'll take that. I will take that repeat of history if it can happen, because, stars are aligning. If it was last season, it'd be a whole different story. I don't think maybe we'd be as high, but yes, this, with how this roster is constructed, I like it. But any thoughts on your own tweet?
I can't take credit for it. Definitely took that from someone, but it bears mentioning, so that's why I tweeted it out.
Yeah, great minds think alike, probably. So, either way, that's the news, and yes, let's get to Greg Garza. So, welcome, Greg Garza, the 2018 MLS Cup winner. Just absolute warrior through injuries, and you basically you powered through for us in that 2018 season to help us find glory. It's amazing, and also day 1 5 stripe. It's just we're honored to have you here. Welcome in.
Thank you, guys. I know it's been a couple of years a few years since I talked to you guys last. So thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it. Always cool to be involved within the community, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Lovely to have you as always. It was pandemic year that time. It was it seems like another world, but
we don't talk about that anymore.
Yeah, exactly. But let's kind of let you first kind of talk about Beyond Goals mentoring. Kind of let the audience know what you're doing there and all the good stuff that you're doing.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you, man. That means a lot. For us, for Michael Parkhurst and myself, still wanting to be involved in the game after we retired, and we wanted to create something that was going to help our youth players in sport understand the importance of the mental side of the game, whether it be battling with confidence, developing great leadership skills, becoming more resilient in themselves and understanding different life is not fair situations, but just finding ways to better our leaders of tomorrow, man. I always tell people that you know we were never successful because we were really good at what we did, but because we were great pros and we understood the elite personality that goes behind it, the discipline, you know, the adverse moments that you have to get through and push through. And I think that's really what shaped us as great players, but great people as well. So I'm a huge advocate for that. And I think that, you know, passing down the knowledge and experience we can to youth athletes and helping them understand that although the percentage is very small, for them to make it into professional sports, but all the life hacks and life values that we're teaching will hopefully help them be successful in anything that they do, man.
Love it, I love it. Yeah, do you have a maybe favorite anecdote from maybe recently that you know, maybe somebody that you were mentoring actually maybe kind of in a way taught you something that, you know, you're like, oh, I should probably, you know, kind of let other people know about that?
Man, that is a great question right there. That we learn from our mentees all the time, man, like all the time. And these could be for like 12, 13-year-old kids, right? Or it could be a kid who's in college, is dealing with something, or it could be a young pro. I got asked the other day at a coffee shop in West Palm Beach, what is something that you were proud about that you don't like speaking about, that you talk about, that you don't really talk about? And dude, that was a hard question. What's something you're proud about that you don't often share? And man, that was like a vulnerable moment for me. And just kind of getting to kind of lean towards what I'm proud about. And I think, you know, my answer to just trying to be the best dad I can be to my kids, man. Like that, I don't speak about how proud I am of it, but just always sometimes having guilt in other places, man, but just always trying to be a great dad for my kids and help them become the best people that they can be. But I think also just kind of giving back to the game, man, just helping kids in all phases, journeys, navigating life. It's not easy. We're always battling with our own selves and anything that we're doing. We always got freaking stress, right? Stress is something that is ongoing, whether you're 6 years old and you're playing youth soccer, or you're, you know, 45 years old and you're trying to still figure out life in somehow, some way, some shape or form. But I think just having great support and great people around you, man, is and a great mentality is essential to that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and you guys are doing this 30-day thing, right? And so if you want to talk about that, if you know, people can join you, maybe, you know, halfway in, or you know, a couple days in.
Yeah, for sure, man. We always try and do like kind of interactive things, and it's more so for our mentees to kind of be involved and help them understand the importance of discipline and the importance of kind of holding themselves accountable. You know, we always get good ideas from our marketing team and just people who are there to help us. And yeah, it's been fun connecting with some mentees and even seeing like a lot of our mentees have printouts that they have, and whether they're, like I said, whether they're 10 years old or whether they're 17 years old and getting geared in for college, like just guys and girls that are really dedicated to their craft and wanting to get better. And that's what it's all about, man. I tell my kids the same thing. You just got to take the game as far as it can take you. That's all that matters, man. If you're able to take the game as far as it takes you and learn so many values and things that go behind it, you're in a good spot.
Love it. So yeah, we'll get to maybe a little bit like kind of rapid fire, a little bit questions, just kind of get some easy ones out of the way. But yeah. Who are your biggest footy influences growing up?
Man, as a young kid, probably DB7, Mr. David Beckham was a big one. I think when I was a little kid, I was a Nike player for like 14 years, but I think when I was a little kid, all I wanted to wear was like Predators, and just bend it like him, dude, which I probably never could. But I would probably say two big ones for me would probably be Ronaldinho and R9. I can go back and watch those guys' YouTube videos of like when YouTube first came out, and I can still recall vividly the YouTube videos that I used to watch of those guys when like YouTube first came out. Like there's a clip of Ronaldinho. I don't know if anybody's ever seen it, dude, where I forget who he's playing against, and a slide tackle comes in, and he like, I don't understand his touch, man. Like, it's almost like he kicks the ball, but the ball lifts and glues to his foot. Like, maybe you can search it after this call, man, and like tell me how this guy had this touch. Like, I've never seen anybody else do that. I remember like being a little kid trying that. But like those two guys for me, an influence of just kind of like the Jenga mentality. I think for me, leaving home pretty quick. Those two guys, man. Sorry, that was not rapid fire.
No, all good. You can go as long as you want on these questions, but as far as the I guess question length for me, it's not going to be like super duper long. But I mean, in that because of kind of the I guess that influence a little bit. Obviously there might be some players that maybe played your position that you maybe have some influence from. Roberto Carlos or Paolo Maldini?
Roberto Carlos for sure, but look, man, I was never a left back. Like I was only a center attacking mid and left winger as a kid. Like I never played left. And I only became a left back when I became a pro. So, and not many people know that, man. And now like, and when people realize they're like, well, freaking no wonder you were freaking overlapping every single time, man. Like, well, of course, man, I'm going to get involved in the attack as much as possible. I don't think I ever liked defending. But I think it was just an opportunistic moment to where I had a coach when I moved to Portugal and said, hey, man, like, we have too many great center mids and we have too many great wingers. Like, this is what we produce, but I'm going to make you a hell of a left back. And just went with it, and ended up working out all right, man.
Right. I mean, it's always that, right? It's like everyone starts out as an attacker or striker, and then they get moved further back and further back and further back, right? So, except for the goalkeepers, probably, right? But
yeah, AJ got more further back all the way to the bench, unfortunately. Now.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, I started out as a defender, and then it's just like, yep. But anyway, the number 4. What inspired that number?
I don't know, man. Whenever I was a kid, like my very first, my parents still have my very first uniform. And I was number 10. And I don't even know I even knew what number 10 was at that time. Like I was like 3 or 4 years old and I was like playing up. And like, I just remember playing for my very first team, like as a little boy. And my mom still gives me the story of like, they didn't want to let me register because I was like 2 years younger than every other kid. And so the city of where I grew up in was like, no, he can't play. And then there was like a coach who had seen me play at a park and it was like, let him play. And I played, man. And I was like 2 years younger than everybody else. And I was like 4 years old and playing with like 5, 6 years old, man, which was like essentially my whole career because I played up my whole entire youth national team career. But 4 came into play whenever I was probably about like after that kind of number 10 phase. So I was probably about 6, 7 years old. And this is crazy, man. If I would guest play with teams as a little kid, I would still be the youngest one. If I would guest play with teams, they'd have to let me wear number 4, man. Even if they had number 4 on their team, which like the prodigy Dallas like aura that I kind of had as a kid, and I used it to the best of my ability, man. As a kid, I'm sure it humbled my ass when I got older, but it was like the chip on my shoulder whenever I was like that little kid, man. I was that little kid from Dallas, that number 4. Like that number 4 kid from Dallas. Oh, they were playing against that number 4 today. Shit, like that was like my thing, man. And so I used it always as a little kid, and then I'm sure I got humbled as a teenager when I went to like residency and with the youth national team. But then when I had the chance to get it back as a pro, man, everything ended up working out. I took it in a heartbeat.
Greg, I got to ask you a follow-up there because I had the same thing when I was growing up. Before I knew what numbers, resembled on a jersey, I also picked 10. I just liked the number. And did this also happen with you? Sometimes you'd go to games, you'd be the number 10. You didn't know what it meant, but other people did. Some of their coaches, some other players, they would see and say, "Who the hell is this kid thinking he could play as the 10? Who's this guy? Who do you think he is?" And I was just like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just here to play soccer. So, like, did that ever happen with you?
That's so funny, for sure, for sure. You know what's really funny, man, is that my son plays. All my kids play, but my oldest son, he's the number 10 on his team, and he's like religiously number 10. Like that's the only number he wants, and that's the position he plays as well. But like, dude, it's so funny because I can go to youth soccer games and I'll see this kid with like number 76 or with like number 92. Like when they can start picking their numbers and you're like, dude, this kid does not watch soccer, man. Like he chose number freaking 92, man. Like what the hell is this guy doing, man? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
yes, yeah. To where like all the kids that there you have this kid number 6, number 4, number 2, like these kids watch it. That's the funniest thing for me now, like in youth soccer, is like seeing which kids are really dedicated to the game, man.
Indeed. Yeah, and seeing your kid, on your stories, I mean, obviously, yeah, it's like you're such a great dad. It seems like, for sure. And I've seen, I think probably all your kids do the Ronaldo celebration, which of course you did in Vancouver when you scored a little bit. Yeah, I mean, this might be an obvious question now, but Ronaldo or Messi?
I like them both, man. I like them both. I will always be an advocate of Cristiano's like if you've ever seen his documentary of like him naming his cars with his son and that shit I don't like. But like he lives a unique lifestyle that his whole life revolves around his success, and I mean that in like a humbling way. Like he is so dedicated 24 hours. Like Parky and I always talk about the 24/7 athlete. He is the perfection of 24/7 athlete. I remember when I signed with Sporting Lisbon, it was my first pro contract as a kid, right after playing the under-17 World Cup. And I signed my first pro contract, and I was going into like the reserves, and like I remember them just showing us video footage of Cristiano Ronaldo waking up at like 3 a.m. because I lived at the academy the very first year that I was there. And they would show us videos of him waking up at 3 a.m. and walking towards the same dorms that we were living in, and he was going to the gym by himself, like at 3 a.m. And like I was just thinking to myself, I was like, I will never be that guy. Like that's why that guy is that guy, bro. Like he is a machine. And so I think I'd pick him rather than just Messi's God-given talent. I do think he puts in a shit ton of work to be where he is, like no doubt about it. But I don't think a person lives as like obsessive as Cristiano does of the game. So I have a lot of respect for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and speaking of all the stops that you've been on, and you've, I think, been documented as saying that you're kind of a self-proclaimed nomad throughout your career. What made you come back to Atlanta?
That's a great question, man. Opportunity made me come back because I had just gone through my first major injury in my career, which was like hip reconstruction on both sides, and it was kind of the peak of my career. I can recall when I was playing at Tijuana and I was playing every single game and I was starting on the national team and my career started to really jump, and it was kind of that major peak. I had, and I wanted to stay in Mexico. I had Tigres talking to me. I had Atlas talking to me at the time. And so I had major clubs that were just after me and willing to buy me. And then I ended up deciding to do I was kind of tired of being in Tijuana for so long. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do a 6-month option to kind of sign with Atlas and go ahead and have them buy me within 6 months because they were providing the best kind of contractual contract for myself and for my family. So it was kind of a done deal. And then within the first 6 months that I was there at Atlas, I got injured and, started to feel a lot of pain, and I just couldn't produce, man. I just wasn't producing and just was in more pain than I was in playing, like enjoying myself. And so went through that excruciating injury, and then I had to do my whole entire rehab back in Tijuana since I had to kind of quit my contract with Atlas, and I still had like a few years left with my contract in Tijuana. They were actually respectful in that sense and kind of let me come back to recover. And then there was a new rule coming into Mexico that you could only have 12 12 Mexicans and it was 12 foreigners and 8 Mexicans on each team. Now I believe it's like on every roster. Now I believe it's like 9 and 9, which they've put it down. But I got my Mexican nationality and I got my Mexican citizenship after 18 years old. So I was about 19, 20 when I got it. So I was considered a foreigner. And Tijuana, after I had come back from injury, had like 16 foreigners. So only 12 of them were going to make the roster. And I'd just gotten back from injury, and Piojo, who was the coach, told me, look, man, like, you're coming back from injury. Like, there's no chance. Like, you're not playing this whole season. So if there's an opportunity for you to go on loan somewhere, have at it. And then there was just kind of a call from my agent who said, hey, Atlanta United has a new team. I have a good relationship with Carlos Bocanegra, and like they're willing to take you on. Tata's seen you play here in Mexico. We would have played Newell's Old Boys in Copa Libertadores in the semifinals. We lost to Ronaldinho, and Ronaldinho's team smacked their ass in the semifinals and won the whole thing. So he had kind of known who I was from the past of playing like those international awesome tournaments. But yeah, man, like, it's just kind of out of fate and luck and opportunity, and the rest is freaking history, man.
It really is, man. Yeah, and it's like I mean, I think as well. I mean, coming back to Atlanta after all the the other stops, of course with FC Cincy as well. Was there a catalyst to return to Atlanta to kind of essentially, I guess, retire here?
No, man, because I wish I could have played. I think just my body at the end of my career and just some personal life changes kind of determined the fact of retiring. But I think my body probably had a couple more years left in me, even dealing with certain injuries at the end of my career. But the body definitely, and I had opportunities to go different places when I retired. I just decided, what, I wanted to be close to my kids, and I wanted to be close to family, to where I could start spending some more time with them and start to live their dream rather than mine. So a lot of different life changes that kind of happened at that time. But I wish, and I always tell people, like, I wish I would have started out at Cincinnati to then understand how fortunate and how blessed I was to be here in Atlanta. Because coming to Atlanta, and I say that in all due respect, because I wouldn't have won jack shit with Cincinnati in those first 2 years, and I've been playing in the USL, but I didn't want that. But just like in terms of being so spoiled within an organization, like I think a lot of rookies who came to Atlanta the very first year, like they completely misunderstood. I think being around the world and understanding what other organizations are, like, Atlanta is unbelievable, like, in terms of organization of what you have. And I think Atlanta served as a catalyst for every other MLS club to follow in their footsteps in terms of what to offer players, not necessarily financially, but just in terms of not even development, but just amenities in terms of training grounds, places to live, schools for kids, man. Like, like, everything that was offered to us made us feel so at home. And I think that was like that you don't get that in many other places in the MLS. Like, we would always talk about in the buses, like, what is the shittiest franchise you would want to go to, like, that you think you would not want to play at. And dude, there are a lot of them in the league, man. A lot of them that, just a few years ago we're still eating freaking Jimmy John's for lunch, man, after training, right? Not a take at Jimmy John's, man, but as a professional athlete, man, you can't be eating Jimmy John's sandwiches after practice,
Oh, you can't do a gargantuan after practice?
Hey, no, I love Jimmy John's, man, but like, eating it every day, man, like after a training session is probably not the best thing for you. But like, there are clubs that just got out of that phase, man, like a couple of years ago, and I won't put them on the map, but like, yeah, but you have that, like, Atlanta United offered like just something bizarre, not even close to other organizations, and was so. And whether it has something to do with Mr. Darren Eales and all those guys, I mean, dude, like, and those people who kind of brought us in were Paul McDonough and even Los at the time, right? Just people who knew exactly what they were doing in terms of what they could provide for us. Dude, I think like was beyond something that we could have ever imagined. So I will always be grateful for just kind of Atlanta. And yeah, this is why I retired here, man.
I would love it. Michael, if you have some questions, I feel like I'm hogging all of them.
Oh yeah, I mean, I just have some that kind of come to mind. I need to say this because what you said about, what are you proud about that you don't have a chance to talk about? What you said resonated with me a lot. I'm a father of 3.
Awesome.
And yeah, just that's, showing up every day, being the best that you can every day, doing all the little things. It doesn't seem like a lot because they're all little. But at the end of the day, they accumulate and they build an entire human being into the person that they are. And I really think that, maybe that's something we should talk about a little more often about, it's something to definitely be proud about. So that really resonated with me.
Good, man. That's what it's all about, man. Yeah, for sure.
And I wanted to also ask you, because I was listening to an interview you did, so there's 2 things I listened to. One thing was kind of funny. So like 6 years ago, you did an interview, the Box to Box interview in Atlanta United. And you let slip that you're interested in writing and that you like poetry, right?
Yeah.
I had ChatGPT work me up a haiku for Atlanta United. So you tell me if you're the poetry expert, if this is any good. So 5 stripes press forward, a city's pulse is in their stride, glory in their wake. Now, can you break that down analytically for us?
You're such a dork, Mike. I love it.
I love you, poet, man. Thank you, man. Sounds great.
Yeah, no problem. But no, in a more serious question. So like you did earlier, actually last year, you did an interview of Soccer Down Here, where you talked about your experience in Brazil when you went there around like 11, 12. And you noticed the kids, taking the bus to practice, and that the hunger and tenacity that you saw in those kids' eyes playing to what you said was escape, their family out of poverty and things of this sort. They played, the motivations those players had were very different or starkly different from what, perhaps Americans are used to or where they come from. So my question to you in terms of United States Soccer Federation is, how do we kind of, because a lot of players don't have that type of motivation going in, and someone would consider that type of motivation like something that can get you over, your opponent, like get you to that next level. So how does USSF kind of wrestle with that, in that maybe their players don't have that type of tenacity or fire?
And that's like such a loaded question, because there's so many things I wish I could change. We talk about it a lot of guys that are retired. I have very good conversation with Justin Morrow, who's the former Toronto FC left back. Had some great success in his career as well. But he leads a great group of black men for change, right, within our league, and like just is such a good spokesperson for always growing the game in the right direction in terms of diversity and inclusivity and everything. So does a lot of great DEI work with University of Southern California and a lot of great stuff. But man, we talk about that a lot whenever we do these trips for the league. I don't know how you instill that hunger, man. I don't think the United States is apt right now to instill hunger in players. And even me as a father myself, like I'm sometimes guilty of it, right? Like we are not tough kids anymore, man. I don't see tough kids anymore. I see vulnerable kids, like kids who are able to be vulnerable, but we're missing the toughness, man. And I think like that for me at a young age was you could see so much. But like if you and I were to go to any youth soccer tournament or soccer fields, like dude, I just like literally yesterday I just had to book a tournament to freaking Birmingham, Alabama for my oldest and just drop like $600 because we have to stay at this fucking team hotel, right? Like what average person does that, man? Like, whoa, we have a tournament in 2 weeks, so I gotta drop $600, man. Boom, here we go. Like what the hell? Like, and there's been kids that I've brought with me and with my family and rented a car, man, so we could all go together because I know for sure that if there's no way that kid did not go for me, there's no way that family's going to be able to afford that. Like our system is broken, man. Like our system in terms of creating hunger is absolutely broken. And man, there's so many things I could say about it. But dude, just speaking about it, just thinking about it, man, it pisses me off, man, because like we could go to any tournament, like I said, we're just dropping that, or like just the cars that are coming in and out, like stupid, man. It's stupid. Every car of the most expensive one made is coming in and out.
I literally was thinking the exact same thing because I had the exact same experience as a kid driving to travel team matches. It's, Lexuses in and out all day, dropping their kids off. And I was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. And now it's even more than Lexus, bro. Lexus is a shit car now, dude. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like in the
this is in the 90s. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I'm a 90s kid as well, man. So trust me. If you were driving, if soccer mom was pulling an SUV, man, you were doing well. But like my kids go to Brazil every year with their mom, right? Like, and I always tell her whenever, like they're going right now in July, and I'm like, they need to freaking train every single day. I want them to train every single, even if there's a day to where like, I don't want to train today, I don't feel motivated. No, they need to train every single day because they will see something that is so much bigger than the game. Like they will see that drive and that hunger of these kids who probably, like what my parents say, they don't have a can to piss in, man, right? But they will fight and give everything, or they don't have a pot to piss in, sorry. But they will give everything that they have with that hour that they have on the field. Like they leave their life there, and they're 12 years old. Mm-hmm. Like that I think we're just a systematic broken country in terms of development right now, man. And I honestly don't think there's turning back. Like we are generations, like in my personal opinion, dude, we are generations from winning a World Cup. Like this is my personal opinion. I think we are like still a century away from winning a World Cup. All three of us could start the World Cup tomorrow and it'd be like, there's no fucking way we're winning. Like we're not even getting close. But I'm sorry. Like, and this is like our golden generation, right? I think golden generation. I think like Clint Dempsey and Landon and all those guys, bro. Like that's golden generation. These guys still have shit to show. But like for me, that's because our system is broken. Like I don't think that's just my personal opinion, man. Like our system is broken in terms of it's just a money-making gamble stock market that we're in for creating players, man. And it sucks. It sucks being on the outside now and even seeing your kids go through it. But like when people ask me, well, what are you gonna do about it? There's nothing I can do. Like I'm in it, like I'm in it just as much as you guys are. There's nothing I can do. It's gonna take a lot of beheading of people that are higher ups, that aren't even involved in USSF. It's just youth soccer in general, to just kind of clear a way for new people to be involved. So it's a tough subject to speak about, but I guess those are my 2 cents on it, man.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely, I agree to a lot of facets of it, and yeah, what's the solution? You move to the slums in some other country, like,
yeah.
Like, and then develop your players that way. It's just, like it's unrealistic. But yeah, I mean, I guess on that, the question for you next is, I guess, what was the hardest part about being a player?
I'm gonna take Parky's answer for this one. Whenever, if anybody were to ask Michael Parkhurst if he misses playing soccer, his answer is no. He's like,
why am
so
I not
honest to say.
surprised?
I know.
Center back, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm in total agreement with him because I miss moments, and I miss the little pieces of success that you had within those moments. And I'm a big time grinder. Like I'll bust my ass for anything, right? Anything you put me to, like if you tell me to do this, I'm gonna do it until the end. I'll always finish what I start. But like I think I don't miss like level of anxiety that it can create, like the level of anxiety that can create around you. In terms of like, I feel like whenever you finish, you're so disciplined that like you almost forget how to live carefree, and that's a big transition for people, I think, that can lead a lot of players into like a downward spiral whenever they finish. But I think that is the hardest thing about being a player, is not necessarily the discipline that goes behind it, but just the ongoing like anxiety that it creates for you, in terms of that you're fighting for a contract every single day with people that you have to be best friends with, and that's a difficult task to do, because you want to create a championship team, but this is also a job that doesn't last forever for yourself individually and for those who you support. So I think the hardest thing about being a player is competitive stress. I would say competitive stress is the hardest thing, because you are at your peak of when shit hits the fan, you can just absolutely explode. And I think that's when shit happens. So, I think the competitive stress is, I think, the hardest thing about being a player, I would say.
Yeah, and I mean, with this next question, it's also predicating that you may have seen any of our stuff, and if we caused you any anxiety, we apologize way posthumously. But I mean, was there ever a piece of content or something that you saw from us that kind of made you feel a certain way?
Not at all, man. You guys, everybody is valid to share their opinion and what they feel and believe in the sport that they are passionate for. That's what we have for, man. That's what great podcasts and great shows are for, man. Like, if you and I lived in Mexico, we'd turn on the TV and we flip every freaking damn channel about soccer, talking shit about all of us, right? And they're not saying anything good. At least you guys say, hey, when the shit's bad, it's bad, and when the shit's good, man, you guys are like, all right, we're excited. Mm-hmm. In Mexico, dude, you turn on the TV, there is nothing good said about any player. So I mean, look, I've gotten death threats in my career before playing in Mexico, so nothing and can even compare to that stuff with playing there, man.
Yeah, I can commiserate with you there. I've gotten death threats from doing this podcast, so mostly from Orlando City fans, but yeah, that's just because they deserve it. But
it's people sometimes, I mean, the world is a crazy place, right, man? But I think as long as we have our circle close, it's very few people of who we have in our circle. As long as you have that, man, you're always in a good spot.
Yeah, indeed. Well, definitely we would be remiss not to talk about Miguel Almiron. Obviously he has signed back again for LA United. And Miggy, I mean, we gotta hear just your most like untold story about Miggy. Like something that no one would ever know. It would surprise us. You'd be like, what? Miguel?
I put him on the spot. Most untold thing about Miggy is that he is in the gym every single day, and you don't see it.
I mean, to be fair, I have a pretty similar body shape to Miguel Almiron, so I feel that.
This,
But
there's very few of us that would get there very early, and I would say
yeah.
probably myself and Parky were probably the very first ones there, along with Jeff, Brad. Darlington would get there at a decent time. I'd probably say Miggy, and actually Joseph gets there pretty damn early as well. But like those guys that I named in the beginning, Miggy was always like with us, kind of those guys when we were there. One of the first ones there. And he would go straight to the gym after breakfast. We would go into the jacuzzi and he would go into the gym. And this guy was doing ab rollers, pull-ups, man. And like, I just recall going in always and being like, dude, what are you doing, man? Like, I have to be in here after training. I have to be in here after training because this is what's going to help me like be okay to play the game. Like, you don't even need this shit, man. Like, you'll be good to go. And obviously it's not showing, man. Like you're this freaking twig. But I would say that's probably something that he works his ass off in the gym, and it's like people probably don't know that because they don't see it very often. I feel like if somebody recognized me in public, they're like, "Shit, dude, man, like you're pretty buff, man." I'm like, dude, I freaking work my ass off in the gym every day. And Miggy, man, he could do something for a year straight, and his body just does not change, man.
Is it the metabolism? Is it the the protein and the nutrition? Like yeah, all the running probably. Yeah,
such a talented player, man. Such a talented player. I hope he's still able to provide that spark and given his age. But I think it's interesting to see how experienced players start to grab hold of what the game can give them, and I'm really interested to see because he's probably still extremely explosive, yes, but probably not as much as he was 7 years ago. Or what are we on right now? This is 7.
Yeah, it's 7 years ago. Yeah, it's 2018. So yeah.
Man, that sounded really weird to say that. I think that it's going to be interesting for me to see like how he adapts, because I do think the game is getting faster in the MLS, and I feel like the game is very young, like very young. So it'll be interesting to see, man, what he's able to bring to the table.
He's already scoring in preseason, so that's good.
You did see that? You got a pin, hit the post and went in. Thank God.
Yeah, what heck of a shot.
Yeah. Goalkeeper dove the same way, but it was it went in.
That's to see who's taking the free kicks, if it's going to be him or me and Chuck, man. So we'll see. Alexi.
Exactly. Yeah. So as far as kind of the fusion of that, Josef Martinez. Well, we got to ask you something about Josef Martinez as well. Did he ever get mad at you?
Of course, man. Joseph, of course, was an asshole on the field, man. He is one of my really, really, really good friends. He's a teddy bear off the field. Like, he's the person that will like come behind you and like kiss your neck, like in the most like eeriest, like weirdest way possible. Like, he's one of those dudes, just like very passionate about when he feels something for you, man. Like, he's ride or die with you. But like, he loves a lot of people, man. I feel for him because his journey and path has been so different than most. Comes from a very different background, and we can talk about hunger again, right? And understanding why. Like, I think that's the beauty about learning about teammates and people, because you realize why they are because of who they are. And so I think he had an obsession with just a winning mentality. So when he was not happy with you on the field, he was going to make it known. And I think that's just kind of the expectation and kind of the want he had of winning. Another asshole that I played with, like in the best way possible, is Clint Dempsey. Clint Dempsey is a straight asshole, man, because he wanted to win so freaking bad. Michael Bradley was exactly the same, man. Like, he wanted to win everything so bad. And in training, if you did not win and you were in that guy's small-sided session, man, he would let you know. He'd give you an earful. And so those guys are special, man. Those guys are special because they provide some energy to the team that you need.
Yeah, that's really, I mean, one of the main reasons why I think we all love Josef Martinez as well is, that competitive fire, that just will to win, and obviously it got us to the to glory. But Michael, did you have another question?
I would say that, I mean, he holds himself to that high standard, right? And then he holds everyone else to that standard as well. And you can see how he gets mad at himself equally as much when he doesn't score, or when he doesn't do what he wants to do.
You're so right, man. You're so right. I think he's mellowed out a lot. If you watch him play now with other teams, like, he's gotten older and he's matured in a much different way. And I think it might just be of just all the success that he's had, and maybe he's kind of just enjoying himself a little bit more now. But like when he was here, man, like the something about him, fire inside, man. He had a fire in him burning for sure.
You think he'll come back and do a backup striker position here to Land United when Miguel's here?
I don't think so, man. I don't think so. That's just my personal opinion, though. I think with his lifestyle, I honestly don't think they'd probably offer him what he wants. He's one of those guys, man. So, and I totally respect it. We gotta follow the green sometimes to kind of this is not something that lasts forever. So
true. Yeah.
It might be the same thing for Miggy as well, right? Like, I'm sure Miggy had other options. But the probably the lucrative opportunity that was probably here for him, and also coming back to a place where he's had so much success and has so much support around him, like, not. So I think that plays a huge role as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so we'll get you out of here soon. Let's preview this MLS season for Atlanta United. So, as far as, I mean, this might be a little easy, maybe if it's not Latte Lath, but who scores the most goals for us from an attacking midfielder position?
Man, I love watching Saba, man. Like, I don't know where they're gonna play all these guys. Like, I'm interested to see. Like, even in preseason, they always change things up. I don't know, man. Like, they have. If this were me, I'd put Latte, our new striker, right? Up top, of course. I would somehow find a way to have Miggy and Alexi together as like the 2 10s and 8, and maybe just have a sitting 6, kind of like we did with Carlos Carmona and Eric Rometti. And there was a point in time where it was like Jeff was that role, and then they kind of pushed up Eric a little bit more, or they would play with two holding 6s and Miggy in front of them. But I would feel that you could probably just have 1 6, and maybe it'd be Tristan and playing that 6, or maybe it'd be Sleege. Like, I don't know. Like, we got some hard decisions to make, man.
Yeah. Ronnie's like a kid in a candy store, right?
Honestly, it really is, man. But I would go with the top 5 would be Latte, the new player, your striker. You're spending $22 million on him, dude. He's got to freaking produce and play. I'd put Saba and Shande Silva on the wings, and I would put Alexi and Miggy in the middle. For Alexi to be a little bit more responsible, but for Miggy just to roam. And dude, like, that 5 right there is like bombastic in speed and creativity. Like, scary, man, scary. I think Saba has been our best player by far. Like, by far, the last year, like, by far. There was no other player that was like as creative and risk taking as him. And every game that I watched and went to, even when the game was absolute shite, he was literally like the only one that was producing. And that's just comes from me. Like, we can all be honest, man. Like, he was just he was producing. He was finding ways to produce, to be a game changer. So I think now having other people around him, dude, we're in good shape, man.
Completely
Yeah,
agree.
we're gonna be
He's very
cooking.
exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, because that and the work rate. I mean, he was busting his ass even when we were down like 2-0 or something. But okay. So you named a lot of really just in terms of who's gonna help us this season. Who's gonna be the MVP for Atlanta United this season?
And MVP for AU. I think I'll stick with Saba.
Okay.
I think Miggy is going to come in and he's going to absolutely just pick teams apart in terms of creativity, but I think like Miggy is Saba's like missing link. I think those two are going to create so much like chaos for teams. And I think it's going to be great for Saba to have him. And yes, do I think Lale will be like our striker that scores a lot of goals? But I think that like of how the trajectory is with Saba the last couple of years, like since he's been here, I think this is probably like his year in terms of like development and kind of seeing where he is in terms of peak. Big year for him.
So, what's your prediction for the 2025 LA United season? Where do we finish in the Eastern Conference?
Man, I see us. You had like non-negotiable has to be like top 4.
Yeah.
Non-negotiable, like non-negotiable has to be top 4. You have to get a playoff game at home. Like have to. I think you have to have every playoff game at home this year. Like no more of this bullshit of playing away every playoff game. Like you have to. They have a good enough team to where if they can find the right pieces of understanding each other, like top 4 finish. I would say top 4 finish within the league. Like, yeah, I would say for the Shield as well. I would say top 4 finish, like in total, Western and Eastern Conference.
Ooh. Yeah. So, I mean, this wasn't a written question, but how does this team compare to the 2018 team?
Yeah, I think like we've talked about before, like you go in with an energy knowing what you guys are capable of. And I think that like, hopefully within the games that they've played, preseason doesn't tell shit. Like it doesn't. It's just you getting your legs heavy, and you can't really like watch a preseason game. Like as a fan, you can't watch a preseason game and be like, oh, we're gonna be great this year, because you just can't. For me, it'll be that first game. It'll be that first game, and understanding what is kind of there, and it might be the home opener, honestly, that really determines what taste we are going to get for the rest of the season. Because if you recall, in 2018, the very first game against Houston was a disaster, but then the home opener, we absolutely smashed DC. I think it was DC that year. Yeah, it was. Smashed DC that year, and I think that was like a statement. So, yeah.
Yeah, because DC's been a boogeyman before that.
Yeah, exactly. That was.
They were our kryptonite, man. Before that, and I remember that game. I think we won. Was it what 3-0? 3-1 or 3-0?
So,
if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Well, last question. A little bit of a gimme. Yeah. I know you have a Captain America tattoo. The movie is coming out this week. You watching it?
Man, I will watch it for sure. Look, people always ask me that, and people always like love the fact that I have it. My favorite, like, I'm a DC guy, man. Like, I love Batman. Batman is probably my favorite hero. But whenever I played in Mexico, I was like the only white complected guy with blue eyes, man. And so like I had this like nickname. Everybody will like, and I just had the the hair, army kind of the military hair. and everybody would always call me Señor Capitan, like Capitan, and they would just always call, like, come up to me and just be like Capitan, and I was like, so I was like, all my tattoos have like that kind of significant meaning. But like if I were to get like, I'd probably get the Batman symbol if I could like pick.
Yeah.
Huge Batman.
Batman
But
animated
yeah,
series, or what are we talking about? Which one's the favorite?
dude, you know what? I've been traveling every single week, and I've just watched. Have you watched Penguin? It's the same.
I
It's the
haven't yet.
same.
I know it's like exactly. Yeah,
Producers and
the Batman.
directors. Yeah, yeah. Dude, such a good series and such a good show. Like the last Batman really surprised me in terms of like how dark it could be. Like I really enjoyed the last Batman. I hope they come out with another one soon. I think Robert Pattinson like nailed it, bro.
Yeah.
Like in a
Good.
very different way. I will always be a Christian Bale fan. But like Dark Knight Rises for me is like the freaking best movie in the world, man. But like
the annual
you
one.
know, yes, for sure, for sure. That was like whenever we would travel when we were kids, we'd always watch Troy every friggin'
Yeah.
or like 300,
Uh-huh.
300 at the time or like Troy, right?
Right.
But yeah, that's where this is from, man. It's just being a journeyman and a nomad, like I've said before, man, and just having nicknames and things that stuck out to me and things that I'll always take and remember for the rest of my life, dude.
Yeah, love it, man. Well, yeah, we really enjoyed this chat. Thank you so much for your time. And yeah, I mean, let people know where to find you, Beyond Goals Mentoring as well, so that people can follow you.
Yeah, for sure. Always on the IG. I don't even know what my tag is. I think it's GM Garza, if I'm not mistaken. And then the other ad is for Beyond Goals Mentoring. But yeah, always involved in the community, man. Whether it's going to like the footy mob kickoff parties or being on Soccer Down here every Friday, man. Just always talking shop about the beautiful game and more importantly, staying in touch with Atlanta United, man. And that's like I said, there's been many places that I've played, but it's always been such a special place in my heart. And I never take any of that for granted. And it's whether it's being involved in any way that I can. I'll also be doing the front gate appearance on the home opener, so I'll be there taking pictures with fans walking in for the very first game. So when they ask me, man, I'm like, hell yeah, man, let's do it. So any way they can keep me involved and I can keep involved, that's what it's all about.
Love it, man. Well, yeah, I'm pretty sure I speak for every fan for Atlanta United that we're happy you're here. We're happy you retired here, and yeah, definitely hope to see you, in many more facets in the future. But
you, guys.
so yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you so much. Stick around for the Patreon next. All right, guys. Well, welcome to the Patreon fam section, and yes, a lot of the Patreon fam are going to ask one question to Greg, and yeah, so Gavin, take it away.
Hey, Greg. It's really nice to meet you. I'm Gavin. And my question for you is just take me through your MLS Cup 2018 experience, like, the atmosphere, lifting the trophy, just the overall experience for MLS Cup 2018. Just take me through that experience.
Man, I don't know if there's a specific word. Obviously, nice to meet you, man, but I don't know if there's a specific word that I could put around it. The first thing that just came to my mind was mesmerizing. I think for me, that moment of like seeing just the fan base like in the stadium, like just it was surreal. Like, it was surreal in seeing how much support we had. Not many people know this, man, but beyond the cup, there was a guy on the other team, and this is like if you get to really know me. There's a guy on the other team. His name is Zarek Valentin. And he was the right back for Portland Timbers. Zarek and I grew up as little kids together throughout the youth national teams. So our very first camp was under 14 national team in Boston, like odd number of years ago, right? So after that game, I went directly to him and gave him a huge hug, man. I feel like we almost like both cried as grown men, because like just beyond winning the cup and just kind of the atmosphere that was there. That was such a special moment, dude, because he's one of my best friends ever in this life, man. And just to kind of that was a moment that we have dreamt of, right? And we got to live it in real time, dude. So I always will pick that moment.
There weren't, I think, dry eyes, I think, in that in that stadium though. So you probably weren't alone. But yeah, thank you for the question, Gavin. Drew, you're up next.
Hey, I'm Drew. Nice to meet you. My question is, where would you rank Atlanta United's like stadium atmosphere compared to all the other places you've played, and how does that affect you as a player? That sort of atmosphere.
Yeah, it is. I tell people who come and visit from like other places, like my girlfriend's friends always come in to visit during the summer, and they're from Canada, and so they're huge hockey people, dude. And they like it's become a staple. They come every year now, and they always tell me I feel like I'm in a concert whenever I'm at the game, and I totally agree. It's a spectacle. Like the game today is an absolute spectacle. From a player perspective, like I think it is the best place to play in the league because of that. But from a player perspective, I'll always say this, and I probably said this the last time I was on too. Like Bobby Dodd for me was like beyond, man. It was beyond because it honestly felt like a European vibe game, like we were playing in the EPL in the middle of the city, like vibe, where I could hear people like 4 feet away from me, 2 feet away from me doing a throw-in. So like that for me will always stick out. Bobby Dodd for me is probably one of the coolest atmospheres that I've played in within the league. But the Benz is the Benz, man. There is no other stadium I think like it in the universe. So that is something that if anybody comes and plays, you know, like any new player that we sign, I feel like when they take them on the tour, they're like, oh shit, like this is what I get. This is what I get to play, and this is such a spectacle to play in. So, you know, that I say those are my thoughts about those two stadiums, but they're both amazing, man.
Yeah, I love those videos when they come out and they have the new players that we sign and they take them on the tour and they're just like Latte recently and Moranchuk, they're just blown away, and it's just so great to see that.
It's awesome, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, and it's probably like as disparate as it comes too. We have a cavernous one, and then you have like completely intimate with Bobby Dodd. It's kind of nuts that you, kind of spoiled with both a little bit. But okay, Glenn, next up.
Hey man, we got to quit running into each other like this. Look, you accomplished a ton in your career. I'm wondering what's like top of your to-do list for accomplishment-wise post playing, and also how do you age in reverse? How's that work?
Not as much stress from not playing anymore yet. I think helps. Man, it's I think the anxiety that goes behind like just producing every single day and fighting for a position every day can really get to you when you play. I think I don't have to worry about that anymore. And I always tell kids that I work with is like that I have no judgment now, where before I was like being watched constantly 24/7 and having people giving me an evaluation and a rating of what I am, what I do, how I did, whether it be coaches, fans, players, parents, family, right? And to where like now it's like, I don't care. I don't care what you think about me. It's still going to do great things, but in terms of playing, right, it doesn't matter anymore. That was a good question that you asked though. Like, what are my goals for like, what do I want to accomplish for after? I think I do a lot of like DEI work and a lot of stuff with the league, and trying to help grow the league, because last year there were about 84 countries that were represented within the league, and this year we have 79 at the moment, if we get any other countries that are represented. And this is all cool work I always do before the season. But I think like just goes in terms of that work is a lot of fighting discrimination and helping people understand that come into the league that we are providing such an amazing opportunity. Every organization and the league itself as an organization is providing an awesome opportunity to like have something that is so multicultural and diverse that no other league in the world offers or provides in any other sport or even soccer. So like that for me to look at how far the league has come in terms of doing that, like this league is only getting better. Guys are starting to get paid in a way to where I hopefully they deservingly to get paid. They have more eyes on them, dude. We're the second most attended and seen
For real.
in the world. Over 12 million eyeballs watching us just in last year, man. So it's like I want to continue to grow the league and grow the game as much as I can within the States. And then we have something super special coming next year, man. So it's like there is so much opportunity that is ahead of us within the we're the freaking soccer hub of the United States, man. Like Atlanta is the soccer hub of the United States. And so I don't think I could have picked a better place to retire, honestly, man. So helping grow the city and what soccer is what I'm all about, man.
Are you trying to get in with USSF at all? Because I know you have a heck of a history with them.
Yeah, there's only very few of us, man. Like I say I am a product of US soccer. Like everything that I have in my life is because of US soccer. I was that, like I said, with Zarek Valentine, the very first camp under 14s in Boston way back in the day, and then playing in the under 17 World Cup. I was very fortunate to hit every single age group. A very torn age group because not qualifying for the Olympics and not qualifying for the under 20 national team, and then obviously being in one round of not qualifying for the World Cup, man. I was in that first round when Bruce Arena called us all in. So it was like a lot of failing moments within US soccer, but in terms of like creating my career, dude, I'm so fortunate, and so they created so many valuable memories for me, but just a lot of lessons too. So yeah, I'd still talk to people that are involved, but they're a special organization, man. It's like when you get involved, you have to really be loyal to them. And I'm a person that I like to wear a lot of hats, man. So I like to be involved in other places as well. So that would be my only kind of difference from being involved with US soccer.
Interesting. I didn't know that. All right, Mark, you're up.
Hey, Greg. Good to meet you. Thank you for joining us. My question, obviously the 2017-18 team holds a special place in our heart. Was there a particular moment where you thought to yourself, oh, this team is really good. This team is going to do some big things?
That is a great question. That's like one of my favorite questions, man. Honestly, because it was after the Red Bull game that we lost. I always give that answer. Dude, we have no freaking clue how good we were, man. Like I just remember having talks with Parky before that game, and I was in January camp, dude, so I didn't even do preseason. Like I got to preseason the day before we played Chattanooga. Like the day before we played Chattanooga, I got to preseason. So like these guys had already spent 3.5 weeks in Bradenton, everybody training, and then I'm this lone soldier that just comes out of nowhere. And then Tata's like, yeah, you're playing tomorrow. I'm like, oh shit, all right. Well, I guess, I just been with the national team. I don't know anyone. The only person I knew was Tito Villalba because he came on loan with Tijuana. And I was injured at the time. So like we knew no one, man. We had no like team chemistry. We're all getting to know each other. But like after the Red Bull game, I think things just clicked. Like Parky and I we use videos. We use a lot of videos from the league to help our players learn. You guys have no idea how many clips we have of that Red Bulls game, like switching the point of attack, or like just amazing like crosses from either side from Mr. Ty Mears, bro. Like just so many amazing moments that I can pick out and recall like vividly from that game of just like things were clicking, and like a partnership with myself and like Yamil Assad or something like that, like just little partnerships and relationships that were just formed on the fly. And so like after that game, we all went in. Dude, I remember LGP and Miggy and Joseph. Like these guys are breaking shit, man. These guys are like throwing things, pissed off. And I just remember all of us like American industrial guys just being like, dude, we're freaking sick, man. We have a sick team. Like we're gonna be fine. And then after that, next game, Minnesota, home opener for them. And then just like wash away. Yeah. So like I think after that game, but then you look back, man, like I'll take this a little further and you look back and then I think preseason for 2018 when we bring in Barco, right? Like we're in Orlando, we're at Champions Gate, Orlando doing preseason. Oh, there you are. And dude, we were like, okay, this is it, man. Like this is our year. Like Tata was only speaking to us as if we were champions, man. Like only speaking to us as if we were champions. And then we get smacked by Houston 3-0 at halftime, man. And we then 4-0 total, bro. Like, and then we're like, okay, maybe we're not. But I don't know if you recall this, man. But in 2018, we never lost 2 games in a row. Right? So look at that. If you really think about it, 2017 was very similar, man. Never lost 2 games in a row. So that right there for me and a special championship team, like that's what you need, man. Not many people know that, dude, by the way.
Yeah, and it's also I think the away record because it was like 10 wins away. It was just kind of insane.
You could even go back and look at like comebacks like within that season, which were insane as well.
Like the San Jose.
That was insane.
That was
I just remember watching that TV, just being, what the hell is happening, man? This is the great old MLS right here, man.
Completely.
Hey Greg, I just want to ask you a quick question. What was your favorite moment with Miggy and Gazan, like outside the pitch?
Favorite moment with like Miggy and Guzan?
And or.
Okay. Outside the pitch. I would say outside the pitch with Brad would probably be still involved. Like we were the ambassadors for the Special Olympics, so for the unified team. Like being involved with them and doing things like that, I think just gave us a different perspective about, just life in general, man, because those kids were so happy and they are so happy and just playing the beautiful game. And I think for us, it was always like a moment of kind of bonding and kind of like realizing that life is so much more than sometimes the stress we put around it when you spend a lot of time with those guys. And so every week we were always involved with the unified team. And I think for us individually, but also for myself and for Brad to bond over that was pretty cool, man. With Miggy, I would say our families at the time were pretty close, man. So I don't know if you guys know this, but if you look at Miggy's son's name, is my first son's name as well. So and so it's pretty cool, man. Like he got the idea from us, but ended up naming his son my oldest son's name. So obviously I just always remember us talking about that off the field, that he just loved Francesco's name, and my oldest son is Francesco and his son is also Francesco, man. So I think those just go to the bonds that are created in soccer that I think sometimes people don't see from the outside, man, but it's always really cool, man, when you have that brotherhood.
That's awesome.
Awesome. So
Nick,
you're up.
Hi, Greg. What an honor to be able to speak to you.
Thank you, man.
How would you compare the potential of this 2025 team to the 2018 team that you are a member of?
Yeah, I did an Atlanta United appearance before this, man, for like season ticket holders, and that was like such a massive question, and I answered in the same.
They all have that energy, man. It's that they feel it,
I know. I was gonna say that, man. That's it. There's something about like looking at the front four or front five now. Front five, I would say. If you can defend collectively with just 4 guys, like if you really look back at our team, right? And that's why I love using that word industrial. Like we just had some industrial guys that would put in a freaking shift, man. Like we would put in a shift so that we would allow those guys to change a game within seconds. That for me is like the recipe to success. And when you look at what you have right now, you have, in my personal opinion, you have a recipe for success. You have 3, 4, 5 different guys that can just defend their asses off, man, if they need to, and just kind of say, hey, here guys, take this, take the ball, I don't need it, man, we'll cover you guys. And if you have those front 4 or 5 guys running at you at speed, like there's gonna be a lot of guys that are a bit scared of that, man. I can say that in other words.
For sure, for sure. I mean, is Nagbe part of that, or is he part of the back five for you?
Is Nagbe part of Nagbe is his own unique he's on his own unique category, man. Look, man, I got to play with like some amazing players within my career. Like if I can look back and being in Mexico, and even looking back at like playing in Portugal, man. Like when I got loaned out, it's so crazy, man, that I just spoke to who was I speaking to the other day? Like it was with Timmy Reen. And he was like, you were talking about, Fulham and everything, and he was talking about he loved Marco Silva, and Marco Silva was my captain when I got loaned out from Sporting Lisbon, man. So it's like, the world is so small, man, but I got to play with so many amazing players in my career. Whether if I look back like Clint Dempsey or Tim Howard or Landon Donovan, like U.S. Gyms, Michael Bradley, great pro, man, like great guys. On the international side, like I got to play with this dude named Juan Arango, bro. I don't know if you guys know that, but like Josef Martinez is Josef Martinez. Juan Arango is Juan Arango is probably like God in Venezuela, bro. Like left-footed free kick, 100% free kick. Like when he played with us in Tijuana, he'd just come from Borussia Mönchengladbach in Germany. He was their captain. But dude, like this guy, the best free kick taker I'd ever seen in my whole entire life. Like every free kick that he took for us in Tijuana was a goal. I don't remember him missing one. But like, if I take all of these players, man, that I'm like, man, I was so fortunate to play with so many great players. Dude, Darlington for me is still number one. Like he is. I think you could ask any person on any team that he's ever played for. Like I'm doing a lot of this work for the league, and I just had I did a facilitating role with Laris Mabiala, right? Portland center back, right? Togo French Portland center back was their center back and their captain for like the last couple of years, and he only got to play with Darlington before like he got bought by Portland in 2017. In like September of 2017, and Darlington came to us in 2018. And I asked him, I was like, dude, is there one player that you can pick out in this league that you played with that you're like, bro, this guy is unbelievable? Guess who he said? Darlington Nagbe. He played with him for like 2 months, man. He played with Diego Valeri and Sebastian Blanco, guys that were like amazing Portland Timber guys. But this guy puts Darlington Nagbe above them, man. And so it just goes to show, man, anybody who has kind of been on the field with him, I think seeing him in training is unbelievable. Like, I never saw him lose a ball in training, ever. Like, it's Tata would always give us the example of like in Barcelona, rondos whenever they do before training, and everybody would guess Messi. And he'd be like, no, Busquets is the guy that like, if you want to keep the ball, you play Busquets in rondos. I felt like Darlington was exactly the same for us. Like it didn't matter how much pressure this guy had around him. Like he just easily, he was so flowy and connected with everyone. So that's why I literally put him on a pedestal in terms of being not even with the back five or the front five. He's in his own category, man.
No doubt. I love that answer.
Best player in his spot in the history of MLS, you'd say Darlington Nagbe?
Most definitely, because where is his spot though, man? Like you put him at the 6, he flourishes. You put him at the 8, he'll score. You put him at the 10, he'll create. Like you can, even with national team, although he didn't really want to go, right? But like he played out wide with the Latin national team, dude, and he was still shit, man. Like if you look back at his like national team games, dude, he's out wide. Like Christian Pulisic is coming in for a sub with him. Like, like think about these things. And I mean, I know people can like talk smack and be like, oh, this guy never went abroad or, never really showed that. Like if you know him and if you know him, dude, you know how family oriented he is, man. And his story is incredible. That's the beauty about soccer. We all have a story to tell. If you know his story, man, and why he stays and just how family oriented he is, dude, like total props to him. Made one of the when he retires, he should already be inducted into the Hall of Fame, bro. Like for sure. There is no better player, I think, and kind of professional, and someone who has. Like, I don't. Can you guys name another player that's won as many championships on as many teams as him?
Yeah, in MLS. Yeah, no, it's crazy. It's
There's three
Yeah.
championships, right? Portland, us, and Columbus, right?
Columbus.
So I mean, like, I don't know any other player that's done that.
Yeah, he is definitely the straw that stirs the drink from whatever team he's on. He's incredible. He's like one of the reasons I fell in love with watching Atlanta United. Like, it's just, yeah, he was the cream of the crop. It was a pleasure watching him. And I was always like, we need to have someone replace that. But then I quickly realized after he left, it's going to be like impossible to replace a Darlington Nagbe in MLS. So.
You know, the first game I saw Muyamba play, he has little sparks of Darlington, of like getting out of explosive areas, like in tight spaces. And I don't know if it's just because of coaching and just kind of, you know, not being able to see him as consistently. But I do feel like there are glimpses of when I watch Tristan, of Darlington. Now, once again, I put Darlington on a pedestal, but there are like glimpses of seeing how explosive he is to get out of certain spots and kind of keep the game flowing. Like, I do see that within Muyamba, man.
Yeah, and yeah, hopefully he can, you know, definitely maybe, you know, fulfill a little bit more of the what you see in him, because yeah, that'd be fantastic for LA United. But
yeah, so can I get Gavin for you to cycle out, and then we can have Kat ask her a question?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you, Greg. Good to meet you.
Later, man. You as well, brother.
Yep.
Hey, can everybody hear me okay?
You're good.
Yes.
We sure can.
Awesome. Greg, so nice to meet you. You were one of absolutely my favorite defender when you were playing for us. So great to talk to you. My question for you is, you know, Atlanta has gone through a couple of different coaches, and, you know, it kind of seems like maybe that's one of the things that we're waiting to just really well. It seems like, you know, we had everything when Tata was there, and then we won it all and it was fabulous, and then we kind of just, and then it feels like so many people scattered to the wind a little bit. But my question for you is, who was your favorite coach to play for ever in your career, and what made that coach so special, and like learn from that coach that made it so special? Like, what made it gel for you?
And that is a great question. I think there's a lot of answers within that. Because I feel like whenever I give my story, I can always recall the coaches who maybe didn't believe in me. Sure. Because I think those like served as motivation to then kind of like push yourself through and be resilient and kind of make something of your career. That there's a lot of different coaches. I would say it's obviously between Tata in terms of like having a respect for a coach. I can recall so many times when, I mean, I think just like coming back from the injury in my shoulder in 2018, right? Chris McCann was playing hell of games. Like, he was doing fantastic. Yeah. And I just remember Tata calling me in the office and like, I mean, finally getting back into just like excruciating pain and just like getting through all of that stuff. And I just remember him calling in my office. He's like, I fought for you to be here in 2018 because I wasn't even supposed to be there in 2018. Yeah. I was supposed to be back in Tijuana. And you know, Tata was the one that fought for me to be there. And that's a whole nother story, right? Yeah. But you know, I think just kind of getting the validation of like, hey man, when you come back, like, I need you. Yeah. So I think Tata did a great job with the players that he trusted in. I would say coaching is so difficult because I feel like if we were to look at like 2017, even 2018, like, would fans be able to name roster spot 14 to 26? I don't know if they would be, right? And it's so crazy, right? Like, that's a crazy question to ask. And I think Tata had such a great relationship with those 14 players. Whereas sometimes I think maybe player 15 to 26 maybe felt a little out of the bubble. And that's valid to say. Sometimes that just happens within the game that you play. The best coach that I had that was able to validate every single player that was on my team was in Tijuana, and we had success there as well. And his name was Antonio Muhammad. They call him Turco. But he coached at America, had success there, won the Liga MX there, won the Liga MX with us, with Tijuana, which we were just a bunch of rejects, and I was just a kid. Like all guys on loan within that team. I did not play as much. I had an important role because I scored the goal in quarterfinals to get us in the semifinals, but I did not play a significant role in that team. Like I was a sub, sometimes made the roster, sometimes didn't. Sometimes started, all of a sudden starting in Copa Libertadores, just out of nowhere. But he had a very amazing way to keep everyone satisfied. And although I may have not made the roster, yes, I was pissed off, but I was still so linked to the group.
Yeah,
and that is something that I find for a coach is so hard to do. Even at Atlanta United, maybe player number 22 on that roster, would finish training and leave and get the hell out of there and be pissed off and be like, I don't even want to go to the game, screw this, hope they lose, that kind of attitude. Because that happens in professional sports.
Yeah.
But with Tijuana, we had maybe 25 or 26 guys that were fully absolutely we would die for each other.
Yeah.
All 26, and that was because of that coach. And he had just an amazing aura to himself. That he would smoke a fat cigar before the game and just walk around inside the stadium and just he was a player's coach. He was a former player, crazy as hell, but he was so involved, and that guy will always stick out to me. And he's had success everywhere he's gone.
Yeah.
But those two for sure up high on my list.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Greg.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay, Jen. You're on mute.
Hi. Did I unmute myself? Sorry, I'm totally disgruntled. Cool. So I have do you want the fun question or do you want the serious question?
Whatever you want first, have at it.
Okay, so the serious question is, what position on the pitch do you think actually influences the game the most?
A goalie.
Really? Why a goalie?
I don't think people understand that a goalie is by far the hardest position to play. In terms of leadership, in terms of communication, in terms of instilling confidence in others, in terms of giving direction, in terms of guiding us to be successful. There are so many moments to where I can recall goalies that I played for or played with that made me successful by giving me certain pieces of direction that saved my ass on that play, right? So they are the most vital, and also giving direction with friggin' 70,000 people in a stadium. How? You have to be a special person to be in that position. And you can also play 90 plus minutes and do everything right and just one freaking thing go wrong, and then the next day the newspaper is all about you. So I think the most mentally tough position for me and the glue to every team is by far a goalie. If you to look at FC Cincinnati, who has a very young goalie in goal right now, he has been so good for them in these last couple of years that they've had success. If you look at New York Red Bull, I'm taking back Luis Robles or Nick Rimando, or these guys, right? Or Meola, these guys who are staples for their team, but were so much more than just someone who could save shots, man. They provided instruction and guidance to help others around them be successful. Brad is really good at that. I was able to play a couple of games with Timmy, with Tim Howard, with the national team. And the amount of security that guy gave me like being in his back line, the amount of security that I felt, and even with Brad is the same thing. Like you have sometimes goalies in goal to where you're like, oh shit, man, like something, you know, I don't feel as secure. If we have something go wrong, like I don't know if this guy's going to be able to hold up. But there are guys that like, and there's a few of them, but there are guys that give you that security within the game that you play, and that will, I think, always, in my personal opinion, be the toughest but most respected position.
That's amazing.
Can I ask, like, can you actually hear Brad yelling at you guys to like set up and stuff like that in a full Benz in a match like the Eastern Conference Final where it was so insanely loud I couldn't hear anything next to me?
Parky and I work with a lot of kids, and we actually work with a lot of goalies, and we always, if they are in Atlanta and they all go to the games, we always say, just watch Brad. Just don't even watch the game. Maybe one day you'll do that for yourself, and you will see how freaking crazy he is. Like, you will see how much he has going on in here and how much information, and he's nonstop. Like, do you guys remember when the All-Star game against Juventus when they like mic'd him up?
Yeah.
It was hilarious, man, because he's nonstop. I can recall, like, I was making an overlapping run around, like, I don't know who it was against, like FC Dallas, the very first game in the Benz. And I think it was like, I don't know who it was, if it were like Yamil or if it was like, I don't even remember who it was, like in 2017. And I think it was Yamil. Yeah, it was Yamil. And it was Yamil, and I can recall, like, I was making an overlapping run, and all I could hear is like Brad screaming, like, Greg, tuck in. And I'm like, dude, we're on the attack. Like, I'm just thinking in my head after the play, I'm like, we're on the freaking attack. Like, what the hell is this guy saying? But he's so, like, routinely involved in the game, and he's always constantly giving instruction that it just becomes automatic. Like, he just doesn't shut the hell up. So, like, it's in the best way possible. So I think, like, to a lot of teams, it is goalie is the glue to make a team successful.
Yeah, it's always interesting. I just wanted to say it's always interesting when a commentator will say, oh, well, that keeper hasn't had much to do today. And you're like, no, he's had plenty to do.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, well, just a moment on commentators. I mean, I have a personal desire and hope for, if, you know, it seems like the question is if instead of when now, with Guzan retiring. If he becomes a commentator, oh my God, that would be so much fun. I mean, seeing him being able to talk, you know, in the booth, having his sense of humor, the guy's hilarious, the charisma that he brings, that would just be a heck of a lot of fun. And secondly, based on what you're saying about how a goalie can, like, be kind of the spirit and direction of the team, I think we saw that in, you know, this makes your point perfectly, at the end of last season against, you know, in the playoffs against Miami. I mean, the fact that you, even if perhaps the Benz was too loud, you can't hear, you can definitely tell what Brad was intending by the way he was passing the ball, the way he was throwing it, the way he was kicking it. He wanted us to go far. He wanted us to go long. He wanted us to charge, attack, do not let up. And you could tell just by the way he moved and distributed the ball. And that, I thought, was part of the reason why we were able to kind of just, you know, David slaying Goliath in that situation.
For sure. Yeah, totally agree. I mean, you can think back about, you know, maybe a couple of years ago where, like, maybe it wasn't his best year, right? And everybody had the questions of, like, oh, this might be his last year, right? I think even from the fan base, it was like, okay, this maybe Brad needs to hang up the gloves, right? Like, this is, you know, and just look at the influence it has on the team when you have a goalie that's, like, on. Think about the Miami games, man. Like, think about how influential he was for his performance and how that made the team push forward, right? Like, they are the biggest influencers of the game in every way possible. So I give a lot of respect to guys who are goalies, because you already have to throw yourself down on the ground like a gazillion times at training, the whole entire training, and you only come into part of training at the very end. Like, when you're not training with the team, you're like, killing yourself on the field, essentially. And then you just come into the last training when coach needs you, and then boom, you're done for the day. But it's like those guys are. Brad is a special one because I always tell people if you told me Brad was on drugs and he sniffed something before every training, and like when he woke up, I would say that he probably does, because that's his personality. But like in the best way possible, man. Like he I don't know many people know this, man. He got stitches his very first practice. Do you guys know that as fans?
No.
No. Tell the story. Yeah.
very first practice, we always do tunnels. All right. Like I don't know if you guys have seen that sometimes on social media. Like when it's somebody's birthday, I think they just did it with Miggy on social media.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you get a new player, you do tunnels. Yeah. Well, guess what? Brad cut his freaking eyebrow going through the tunnel, and like blood gushing, and they had to give him stitches right then and there. His very first friggin' practice, and I had already known Brad from the national team, and I just thought to myself, I was like, and of all freaking people, man, like it had only him. It would only happen to like his bald
That's so
head.
funny.
Just stitches very first
He
day.
gives 110% of everything. He can't. He like has
Yes.
he has two modes off and like 1,000%.
Going through a tunnel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
He's like, I'm going to go through this tunnel faster, more vigorously than anyone in the history of tunnels. I could see him doing that. I mean, he's insane. He's such a competitor.
I love it. Well, that was the last question from the Patreon fam, and so sadly this will have to end. But if you want to join in on this, join us on the Patreon, and we'll see you there. And thanks so much again to Greg Garza. What a great chat. I mean, he really went in depth on a lot of the questions, and we're grateful. Definitely. We're excited for more of these, and join the Patreon so you can join in on the fun. So that gets us to the mailbag, and you guys send in these questions through IG Story and Discord. Please continue to do so, and we might answer your question in the future. First question comes from Nick17. Use your gut here. Pick the 9 playoff teams in the East and where we finish. That's a tough one. There's gonna be a lot of good teams, I think, in the East this season. But we'll go from 9, I guess, together. Let's I guess. I'm gonna say. Let's see. Let's make sure I have all the teams in front of me as well.
Yeah.
So that's not the easiest to remember. But okay. Not NBA, MLS. Here we go. But I think because Columbus and Cincinnati, they essentially lost very big pieces. They could be near the bottom a little bit here, but I'm thinking maybe Nashville at 9. I'm thinking, I'm thinking FC Cincy probably 8.
Even with Evander?
Even with Vander, yeah.
Okay.
Because they've got to figure out some things a little bit. Let's see. Orlando City at 7. Let's see. Charlotte at 6th. Let's see. Maybe New England. I think they were surprised a little bit of people. At, was it 6?
5th then?
5th?
I think.
5th. Okay. Let's see. Did I say Red Bulls yet?
No.
Red Bulls at 4. Who am I missing? 4. So, okay, got it. I haven't said Charlotte, right?
You did say Charlotte.
Did I? Okay. Who am I missing?
New York
Besides
City
the
FC?
obvious. Oh, NYC. Yep. That might be a little high, but we'll go with that for now. 3. We'll go with LA United 2. Inter Miami 1. What about you?
I think I would. I don't know how. I don't need to be discreet about this, but I would say I would move probably Charlotte and Red Bull up 1 or 2. Maybe Nashville doesn't make it onto the list.
Okay.
I don't know anything about New England, and it would just surprise me if they are that high, but maybe they have a full-blown whatever. I don't know. So this isn't a New England podcast, so I have no idea. But yeah, those other teams, though, I think perhaps should, especially Red Bull, because I think they may have even gotten better this time around.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I just went through mine. It's fine. You don't have to go through all of it. It's we have bigger fish to fry, I think, in this episode. But yes, next question comes from greatest Josh Cohen fan. Do we need any depth signings or last minute signings to patch up some holes or some extra staff to help with Ronnie Dyla?
I mean, there's that question of the extra striker, that we typically run apparently with 3 strikers, and we don't have 3 right now, at least. So that could be.
Yeah, left. We've got Tiara. We've got Cayman Tokashi. So,
that's right. I forgot Cayman. That's right. Yeah. So we're good there. Then left back, we are a little lax with, so could probably get that.
Because we do have Dominique Changqui, who is. Yeah,
who could do a number? That guy was doing really well in preseason. I don't know how well that translates, but that's looking optimistic at least. So
right, and then of course you have Ronaldo Hernandez, who's going to be the understudy at both, probably as the first choice. But I think we probably do need just one more fullback, possibly that has experience, and that's why we were linked to one. But as far as the plausibility at the moment, nothing else has been said about it.
And that's Mario Rui, right?
Mario Rui, and I think we need somebody else in midfield probably to probably be that kind of goal scoring midfielder. Even though we do have Click, who is a pretty good creative force, but I think just another player in there that can do some of that is what we need, I think. But as far as the extra staff, I mean, he could want to hire some more staff, but I think you don't need to have a massive team to just kind of at least when it's the first year for him here. It's like, okay, maybe if he feels like he needs more to be able to support everything, then great, but it's probably fine. But next question comes from ATL UTD VIPs. Like when we played it as kids, what LA United players had to rotate as to who brings LA United players had to rotate who brings halftime snacks, which player would be the one who forgets? So very interesting question.
Would be the one who forgets? For some reason Schleich comes to mind, and I don't know why. And I don't want to take shots at him for no reason, because I don't think that that's a mark against him or anything, but for some reason that comes to mind. Maybe it's just something that he just is why do I need to do this? It's not necessary, and he would forget maybe that way. Too focused on the game and training is probably my guess. Maybe.
Well, I mean, he has been one of the captains this preseason, so I feel like he has that responsibility in him, maybe, and so I don't know. For me, I'm thinking, I think it's Gregerson. I think there's something. Yeah, I think there's something a little aloof at times, in his.
He was captain in Bordeaux.
Yes, but I think it's something he seems a little goofy at times too. So there's a bit of that type of maybe he's a little forgetful. These are all very I would say not based on fact type of assumptions here, but. But greatest Josh Cohen fan, he does add, and who would bring the best snacks too?
Who would bring the best snacks?
That might be Gregerson when he remembers. I mean, some Norwegian snacks might be actually pretty tasty.
All right, I know some Scandinavian snacks. They are very particular to Scandinavia, and not everyone's going to like them. Yeah. So I don't know if that would be the best snacks. So I feel like maybe Tristan or Silva would have some interesting things to bring.
Yeah.
I
mean,
think about
Schleich
it.
even too. If you just brought pierogies,
Yeah.
that'd be
Yeah. No,
delicious.
there's not a snack, but yeah.
That's you don't really bring that to training, but whatever.
After match maybe there.
Yeah.
Like, let's see. I mean, yeah, not. I wouldn't say Lathwood. Probably not Miguel either. Miguel would definitely bring the snacks. He would remember to. He'd probably be the number one rememberer of bringing snacks on that list.
I feel like his wife would like push it on him to remember and like, no, remember to take this with you, and all that. So I think there's definitely a lot of fun answers, but we'll keep it moving. Here we go. So next question. Let's see. Man, some really tough questions here, but I think an easy one here. KCT Photography asks, will Atlanta United Fan TV do fan reaction videos again? So we're often asked this question. We do have the post-match live streams that we do after matches now. That will continue. But as far as after the match, near the stadium, well, the new tailgate area is definitely a lot more amenable to it. We'll see. There's definitely a lot of resources that take to be able to make that content. And yeah, it's not only resources, but manpower. So yeah, or woman power, whichever. But it is definitely, I think, one of those things where we want to do them. It's just a matter of logistics. And
the best way to get it happening fastest is to sign up. Enough of you sign up for Patreon, and then that is definitely something that will come back if enough of you do.
Indeed, yeah. Sad to say, but not sad to say, I guess. It's the reality of it. It just takes a lot of of resources. But okay, so let's see. Next question comes from so many good questions. I don't know if we can answer these all, but I mean, this is maybe a gimme. Yeti Boy _4, is MLS Cup possible this season?
Yeah, it's MLS. It's a weird league. Things can just happen. You never know. So that's part of the allure of the league. So I think that it is absolutely possible that that's on the table. Is it likely? I don't know, but I think it's definitely something you can see as a possibility.
Yeah, indeed. Let's see. I mean, I agree fully. It's just, it's like one of those things where it's such a crapshoot. It's such a forgiving season as well. Yeah, once you get into the playoffs, anything can happen. And I think we have a roster that is constructed to go pretty far in the playoffs. But let's see. So many questions from KCT Photography. So let's ask another one. Who should fans pay more attention to this year in terms of development and growth?
I mean, if Dominic Junqueek is playing on the first team with a lot of minutes, or at least some minutes, I would watch him. I mean, that guy really is impressing in preseason, so I would definitely keep an eye on him, on how he develops. Obviously, always watching Jay Fortune, because that kid is also, he's been doing great, and he's filling some shoes and doing a job. So, keep an eye on him as well. In terms of development, hopefully a lot of the other players that we have on the roster have already largely developed. So they are here to win. So that's hoping to be the case for this season for a lot of the killers that we brought on board in the offseason.
Yeah. And, obviously last season you saw kind of maybe not completely breakthrough, but I think, you saw a lot of minutes from Noah Cobb. Efrain Morales, I would think, gets a lot more minutes this season as well. Definitely a couple guys that's center back pair that is definitely for the future, for sure. Just a lot of really good qualities within them, and Yeah, I mean, spelling the first team, it's not gonna be that bad. It's not gonna be like as big of a drop off as it has been in recent years. But
and one last thing, just as a hope, I hope Josh Cohen actually improves a good amount. I didn't think I would need him to be on the list of I hope guys that are guys that I hope that improve. I just hoped he was just gonna be good right off the bat, but I believe he needs to improve and show more, and I'm hoping, I don't know if you have to keep an eye on him, but I'm hoping to see him do better.
Yeah, indeed. I agree. And let's see. I think we'll make this the last question here. Land guy in ATL, who is the best option to back up Alex or Alexei Moranchuk?
Cool. What was that? I mean, like, Miggy can play the 10 as well. I mean, I believe I heard Tyler Pilgrim talking about how Ronnie is considering Silva to attempt to back up as a backup 10 at some points too. So that could be interesting. Could see how that works. Who knows?
Right.
If in a pinch, you need that.
Right. He was playing there that last match in preseason as well when he came on in the second half. So yeah, he looks like he's going to be that auxiliary attacking midfielder for LA United this season, and what a player to have off the bench. I mean, yeah, I think starting, I think it was probably a little bit too much, but yeah, I think as a player off the bench, as good as any in this league right now, to fill in at a lot of positions. So
and like I said, I think in the previous episode, it's just think about it. Like basically, our entire team that started, not entire, but a lot of our team that started last season is currently now our depth pieces. Like that's incredible to have that. Very much so as in your attacking, core. It's incredible to be able to rely on such a deep roster that we've constructed. I mean, you talk about the DP Light thing. Garf said, getting these players in and buying them down and getting them adjusted and fitting them in really would take some time, and it did. And we had some, feast or famine, and it's been famine for a little while. But now it looks like it's time to feast. And I think, this is a very good roster. And it includes the backups, which, like you kind of alluded to earlier, hasn't been the case for us in a long time.
Yeah. I mean, the competition for places, if it were, it's definitely there. And I think, there is a probably clear-cut 11, but any of the players that come in are going to produce, I feel like, at a level that's, in recent years, the drop-off was definitely a lot larger. So, but yeah, guys, thank you for sending in those questions. Apologies that we weren't able to answer them all, but yeah, keep sending them in. We might answer them in the future. But that almost does it for the entire episode, except for the question of the day. The question of the day is, do you agree with Greg and his predictions? Let us know in the comments below. Looking forward to what you have to say. But guys, that is the episode there and there. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. That's Michael. I'm AJ. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next video.